Leonard.
How is he?
Yeah, he
He's
looked like
good.
he was.
Yeah, we ran him pretty good yesterday. Tough practice. It was hot. It was no pads, but we were pressing the guys pretty good. So he's fine.
How do you evaluate line play in the day when they're not wearing full pads?
It's really, do they do what they're supposed to do in terms of the scheme? You don't want to be double teaming guys and knock them to the ground, or you're not looking for any of that without the pads on. So you practice at a bunch in OTAs, and you have a bunch of these now, so you try to practice the right way. But are they doing what they're supposed to do?
From our perspective, it looked like the defense had a pretty good day there. What did you see?
I'd say both sides had their moments. Again, it was a big time situation day, so there was some 3rd and 20s, some 2nd and 1s. You try to put stress on both sides of the ball the best you can. Good competitive practice.
Brian, in all of your experience as an assistant coach and now as a head coach, do you notice guys in the last week of training camp really changing, feeling the pressure, especially those who are on the bubble? And if so, what do you say to them to kind of, keep them focused?
Yeah, it's a great question, Patty. I think that, look, they're human. So that as it gets closer to a cut down date, I'm sure some players feel that way. Again, you just try to be open and honest with everybody. There's, the team's not cut down yet. There's plenty of opportunities for people to show what they can do, particularly in this last game. And, again, empathy goes a long way, I think.
When it comes to receivers, people get caught up in speed and size. How good of a route runner is Isaiah Hodgins, and how much a part of a game is that, of his game is that?
Sure. Yeah, I think the most important thing for a skilled player in the pass game is they can create separation. And some players create it different ways. Some use their size, some use their speed, some use their quickness. There's all different ways. Their route savviness. So he's been in the system for quite some time. I think it allows him to play fast, knowing what to do, and I think he's usually on the same page with the quarterback and some of the things that we ask our skilled players to do. He's done a good job.
What happened with Nacho yesterday? It seemed like he came out late.
Yeah, nothing. He was just a couple minutes. He was fine. I knew he was going to be a couple minutes late.
Who's on the injury, kind of being late front, who's not practicing today?
It's really the same as yesterday. A couple of vet days. Besides what we talked about yesterday, Sheps get a vet day, and Leo will get one. That's not related to what you asked me. It's just a vet day.
Anyone returning?
Tyree will return in a limited form. Phillips. And that's it.
How much does it complicate things? You got to make decisions here in a week of guys who are maybe on the bubble who are banged up. Like, how do you factor that in when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, that's another great question. It's really just by past performance, if we've had them, or what we've seen out of them up to this point, whether it's through OTAs, through training camp. If they can't go, they can't go. So certainly a lot of discussion, about those type of players that haven't been out there. So you have to kind of project a little bit. And some of them you have experience with, some of them are new players. So a lot of discussion.
Why the later practices this week?
Well, we're to kind of our normal regular season schedule. So this is what it would be in a normal season. So this is really just to get them acclimated to how. So it's not the first week we're doing it. So that's kind of how we're approaching it this week.
Beasley, do you have any concern that leg is long term?
No, he's day to day.
Babes, I thought
Brandon Brown made an interesting point yesterday when he was asked.
He's smart, isn't he?
He is a smart
smart
person, smarter than I am.
Yeah, me too.
He made the point, that you have to understand what Jalen Hyatt was asked to do at Tennessee. Is that something that, as a coach and obviously a former offensive coordinator, that you had to kind of understand in evaluating players and everything? I just thought that was an astute point.
No,
given that everyone wants to kill the kid for a route tree that he doesn't have.
Yeah, I just think you have to really do your due diligence on every player that's coming out in the draft. They're not exactly going to be in the system that you're running, but so you have to really do a good job of identifying strengths and things that you think they're capable of. And there's a lot of time and energy and effort spent in that process, from meeting with the player, whether it's at the combine, whether you bring them on 30, whether you go out and do a private workout, spending time at the school. It's a pretty exhaustive process, and there's players that play in a completely different scheme, but you can see a skill set that you like to work with after you go through that whole process. And then, every player is not for every team, but we do a lot of work on that.
When you drafted him, though, did you have concerns about that, or had those all been taken care of?
Yeah.
So you did draft him.
No, I was very comfortable with again, I think Josh does a fantastic job down at Tennessee. You could see a lot of things that Jalen did, and then you look at him in a lot of different other areas too. But glad we drafted him.
Dave, you talked with your history in this league as an assistant coach, a position coach, and then a coordinator. I would imagine in your time you were empowered by the head coach during evaluation processes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you became head coach, how important was that for you to empower your assistants
Coaches.
to know that they could be involved in that process?
Yeah, it's another good question. It's such a collaborative process that we go through, and the one thing you don't want is you just don't want, yes, sir, this is the way, you see it this way, but, I see it the same exact way. You want people to have opinions. Everybody does a lot of work on them. I think you have to give the scouting staff, clear points that you're looking for on players. And they're, busting their tail out on the road, away from their families. They do a fantastic job, but you need great collaboration, great communication between the coaches and the scouts. And you want them to give obviously their honest evaluation. And it's okay to disagree. You just can't be a disagreeable person where it's everything is I disagree with. So, you have a good process, and then you move forward day to day. And if there is players that you disagree with, whether it's scout to scout, coach to scout, coach to coach, that's when you kind of get in a room. And if you identify certain players, and we might sit in there with 4 or 5 of us, Joe, Brandon, Tim, Hick, myself, Rossetti, and then maybe the coordinator, maybe the position coach, and we might go through. I mean, heck, we've gone through entire seasons on players, all of us together. So, hey, this is what I saw. This is what I think his strength is. This is what I think he can do. Well, this is kind of what I saw, and then you kind of talk it through, and at the end of the day, make the best decision you can for the team.
Can you talk about the Rossettis, the Hickeys, the Tim McDonald's, how valuable they've been?
Yeah, no, they do a great job, not just evaluating, but also giving their input on a lot of different things. So they've all had experiences at different clubs. They've had different titles at different times. And I just think they're another resource, particularly for myself in the role that I'm in, to ask questions. Hey, maybe how did you do it at this place? Or what could we do better? Or what could I do better in a presentation? They're all involved, and they come to the squad meetings, and they're there, and they're just a valuable part to the organization. I'd say very helpful for me.
We're talking about draft process. I guess from last year, cut down day, a few days there. How has that changed your perspective going into cut day this year? Does it change your process a little bit?
In what way?
Have you changed your process a little bit in the way you approach it?
No, I would say, to be completely honest, cut down day sucks. It really does, because you develop relationships with players. You see how hard they work, and to bring a player up to your office and let them know that we're going in a different direction, or they didn't make the team. You get a lot of different reactions, and I completely understand it. They've laid everything they have on the line, and it's a sports business. But it's a people business. So if you have relationships with people, that's not easy. It's not easy for me.
You talked about special teams guys, about guys.
I'll get you, Bob.
Having to be able to play special
Sure.
teams. Is there a flip side to that where you can look at a guy and say, he could really help us on special teams, but if we have to use him on offense or defense, that's a problem?
Yeah, no, I'd say there's plenty of those players in the league, that contribute in a positive way to your team, whether that's they're a core special teams player and maybe not as much on defense or offense. You can't have too many of them because you only get a certain amount of players to go to a game. But definitely if they're very helpful in a certain phase of the game and contribute in the right way, then, maybe give them a smaller package, whether it's on offense or defense or vice versa.
This actually kind of segues on
Okay.
that. You talked about how guys that aren't starters need to contribute on special teams, how important that is. Is that true for veterans, or can you look at them in different ways sometimes if they've been around? And is it hard for maybe a guy who hasn't been a special teams player, you know, we talk about coming out of college, they don't do it a lot, but if they haven't done it at this level, how hard is it?
Well, it's
seven
something that they you know they need to do if that's their role. Again, it's not really back in the day where it was this was the start. There's so many different personnel groups. There's so many different defensive packages. I mean, you might have 15, 16 starters based on how you got to play the game. You know, you have however many receivers on a team. You know, you might have 5 starters in a game, or you might have 7 defensive backs in a game. Again, each game is different. You do your best to try to come up with the best 53 for the team. But in terms of everybody's got to contribute because you only get so many players to a game. So there's a lot of players that are going to play special teams, that play offense and defense. There's some that maybe are just special teams players that have a limited role on defense. But that's all the that's all the decisions and discussions that we have really on a day-to-day basis, Joe and I.
How unique is Weeks period? Is that something you've done before? Is it something unique to him?
I would just say
And the
for
way
all,
he does it, at least?
yeah, no, I would just say for all of our coaches, I believe in transparency. I believe in having difficult discussions, even though they're not easy, and letting everybody kind of know where they stand.
But to do it
And I
that
think
way
our
in front of
coaches,
the room, is that something
Yeah.
you've done? Is that
sure,
something-
absolutely. Again, I don't think you want to have a bunch of secrets with your team. You want to be upfront and honest about what people need to do better. And then you have to make max performance clips. We make max performance clips of things that, they've really stood out and done these X, Y, and Z for their job as good as they can be. And that's what we expect. That's the standard we expect. So if it's not up to that standard, it's the coach's job to clearly communicate, hey, this is what we expect. This is what we're getting. You need to raise your level of performance. There's also improvement tapes that you have to make. Hey, you didn't, cross your T or dot your I, Jordan, or, maybe your sentence wasn't good enough. So we're going to show that to you and say, look, this wasn't good enough. Maybe you got to go back to English 101 or whatever it may be. That's kind of, I'm just trying to put it in your terms. That's kind of what we do.